Physiological psychology crosses many dimensions. There are many different levels of investigation. We can start at the social level. Okay, for instance, we have this almost alarming relationship between people who think mask wearing during a pandemic is the proper thing to do, and people who are severely disturbed that they have to wear masks at all. People from both sides of the spectrum probably feel anxiety when being forced to do one or the other. So you could do a study that looks at face mask wearing, amongst a group of anti-maskers, and see if there's some forced restrictions that make them increase their cortisol levels, their circulating hormones. That is just one way of showing how social factors can affect neuroscience or physiological psychology. In the individual level, we can stay with COVID for a second. We know that COVID affects people differently. COVID affects multiple organs of the body. It just doesn't affect the respiratory system. And some patients who suffer from COVID and then recover, they can have neurological problems. They can have atrophy in the muscles. They can have a lack of motivation, cognitive thought processing. They can have strokes. So what is it that makes one person vulnerable to that and one not? Here we have a virus that's believed to be respiratory, that should affect everyone in a similar fashion, but it doesn't. It affects the nervous system in some different than others. That's one way physiological psychology can do an investigation at the individual level. There are systems level analysis. I don't know if you're aware, but there's a good body of research now that shows the type of bugs you have in your gut can influence everything from your weight and your potential for type 2 diabetes, and also your potential for mood disorders like depression. So here's criteria in a different system, the GI tract system, the digestive system, affecting nervous system function, and to a point, your psychology, your mental health. That's another way it could be investigated. We can go to the cellular level. We know for a fact that specific cells die in a specific area of the brain, and they result in Parkinson's disease. So at the very cellular level, we know something is killing these cells, and it creates this disorder. You kill the cells next to them, it doesn't do anything. But if you kill these specific cells, a patient ends up being diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And finally, a molecular approach. We can go down to the molecular approach. We can look at the proteins on the surface of a cell. We can look at the DNA, genetic signatures. We know that post-traumatic stress disorder is puzzling in that two people exposed to the same traumatic condition may not have the same result in mental health. One may suffer post-traumatic syndrome from that event, and the other won't. So is there something at the molecular level that protects one and makes another vulnerable? So physiological psychology and neuroscience in general can be investigated from everything from the molecular level all the way up to the social level. And that's what makes this science so interesting.